Sadhu Sundar Singh was an Indian Christian missionary. He is believed to have died in the foothills of the Himalayas in 1929. Biography. Early years. Sundar Singh was born into a Sikh family in the village of Rampur Katania, Ludhiana in northern India. Sikhism, founded about 1500 AD, is a religion that teaches belief in one God and rejects the caste system. It had become one of the established religions in the area, standing apart from both Hinduism and Islam. Sundar Singh's mother took him to sit at the feet of a sadhu, an ascetic holy man, who lived in the jungle some miles away, while also sending him to Ewing Christian High School, Ludhiana, to learn English. The death of Sundar Singh's mother, when he was 14, pitched him into violence and despair. He took out his anger on the missionaries, persecuted Christian converts, and ridiculed the faith. In final defiance of the religion, he bought a Bible and burned it page by page in his home while his friends watched. Conversion to Christianity. Sundar felt that his religious pursuits in Sikhism and the questioning of Christian and Hindu priests left him without an ultimate meaning. Sundar resolved to kill himself by throwing himself upon a railroad track. He asked that whosoever is the true God would appear before him, or else he would kill himself. That very night he had a vision of Jesus who opened Sundar's soul to the truth. Sundar announced to his father Chur Singh that henceforth he would follow Christ. His father denounced him, and his brother Rajendra Singh attempted to poison him. He was not poisoned just once but a number of times. People of that area threw snakes in his house. People used to possess his house, but his life was saved by the help of a nearby Christian community. On his 16th birthday, he was publicly baptized as a Christian in the parish church in Simla in the Himalayan foothills. Prior to this he had been staying at the Christian leprosy home at Sabathu, near Simla, serving the leprosy patients there. Life of servitude. In October 1906, he set out on his journey as a new Christian, wearing a turban and the yellow robe of a Hindu sadhu, an ascetic devoted to spiritual practice. Singh viewed himself as a sadhu, albeit one within Christianity rather than Hinduism, because he realized Christianity could not penetrate India unless it was in an Indian way. "I am not worthy to follow in the steps of my Lord," he said, "but, like him, I want no home, no possessions. Like him I will belong to the road, sharing the suffering of my people, eating with those who will give me shelter, and telling all men of the love of God." After returning to his home village, where he was given an unexpectedly warm welcome, Sundar Singh travelled northward through the Punjab, over the Banahal Pass into Kashmir, and then back through Muslim Afghanistan and into the brigand-infested northwest frontier and Balochistan. He was referred to as the Apostle with the bleeding feet by the Christian communities of the north. He suffered arrest and stoning for his beliefs, and experienced mystical encounters. In 1908, he crossed the frontier of Tibet, where he was appalled by the living conditions. He was stoned as he bathed in cold water because it was believed that holy men never washed. In 1908 he went to Bombay, hoping to board a ship to visit Palestine, but was refused a permit, and had to return to the north. On this trip he recognized a basic dilemma of the Christian mission to India. A Brahmin had collapsed in a hot, crowded railway carriage and was offered water by the Anglo-Indian station master. The Brahmin could accept it in only his own drinking vessel. Sundar Singh realized that India would not readily convert to Western-style Christianity, although people had responded to his sadhu's robe. Formal Christian training. In December 1909, Singh began training for the Christian ministry at the Anglican College in Lahore. According to his biographers, he did not form close relationships with fellow students, meeting them only at meal times and designated prayer sessions. He was ostracized for being different. Although Singh had been baptized by an Anglican priest, he was ignorant of the ecclesiastical culture and conventions of Anglicanism. His inability to adapt hindered him from fitting in with the routines of academic study. Much in the college course seemed irrelevant to the gospel, as India needed to hear it. After 8 months in the college, Singh left in July 1910. It has been claimed by his biographers that Singh's withdrawal was due to stipulations laid down by Bishop Lefroy. As an ordained Anglican priest, Singh was told to discard his sadhu's robe and wear respectable European clerical dress, use formal Anglican worship, sing English hymns, and not preach outside his parish without permission. To not visit Tibet, however, seemed to him an unthinkable rejection of God's call. Helping others. Stories from those years are astonishing and sometimes incredible. Indeed, there were those who insisted that they were mystical rather than real happenings. That first year, 1912, he returned with an extraordinary account of finding a 300-year-old hermit in a mountain cave, the Maharishi of Kailas, with whom he spent some weeks in deep fellowship. According to Singh, in a town called Rizar, he had been thrown into a dry well full of bones and rotting flesh and left to die. But 3 days later he was rescued. At these and at other times Singh was said to have been rescued by members of the Sannyasi mission, secret disciples of Jesus wearing Hindu markings, whom he claimed to have found all over India. The secret Sannyasi mission is reputed to have numbered around 24,000 members across India. The origins of this brotherhood were reputed to be linked to one of the Magi at Christ's Nativity and then the 2nd century AD disciples of the Apostle Thomas circulating in India. Nothing was heard of this evangelistic fellowship until William Carey began his missionary work in Serampore. The Maharishi of Kailas experienced ecstatic visions about the secret fellowship that he retold to Sundar Singh, and Singh himself built his spiritual life around visions. Whether he won many continuing disciples on these hazardous Tibetan treks is not known. Singh did not keep written records and he was unaccompanied by any other Christian disciples who might have witnessed the events. Travels abroad. During his 20s, Sundar Singh's ministry widened greatly, and long before he was 30, his name and picture were familiar all over the Christian world. He described a struggle with Satan to retain his humility, but people described him as always human, approachable and humble, with a sense of fun and a love of nature. This character, with his illustrations from ordinary life, gave his addresses great impact. Many people said, he not only looks like Jesus, he talks like Jesus must have talked. His talks and his personal speech were informed by his habitual early morning meditation, especially on the Gospels. In 1918 he made a long tour of South India and Ceylon, and the following year he was invited to Burma, Malaya, China and Japan. Some of the stories for these tours were as strange as any of his Tibetan adventures. He claimed power over wild things. He claimed even to have power over disease and illness, though he never allowed his presumed healing gifts to be publicized. For a long time Sundar Singh had wanted to visit Britain, and the opportunity came when his father, Sher Singh, came to tell him that he too had become a Christian and wished to give him the money for his fare to Britain. He visited the West twice, traveling to Britain, the United States and Australia in 1920, and to Europe again in 1922. He was welcomed by Christians of many traditions, and his words searched the hearts of people who now faced the aftermath of World War I and who seemed to evidence a shallow attitude to life. Singh was appalled by what he saw as the materialism, emptiness and irreligion he found everywhere, contrasting it with Asia's awareness of God, no matter how limited that might be. Once back in India, he continued his ministry, though it was clear that he was getting more physically frail. Final trip in 1923, Sundar Singh made the last of his regular summer visits to Tibet and came back exhausted. His preaching days were obviously over, and in the next years, in his own home or those of his friends in the Simla hills, he gave himself to meditation, fellowship, and writing some of the things he had lived to preach. In 1929, against all his friends' advice, Singh determined to make one last journey to Tibet. He was last seen on the 18th of April 1929 setting off on this journey. In April he reached Kalka, a small town below Simla. A prematurely aged figure in his yellow robe among pilgrims and holy men who were beginning their own trek to one of Hinduism's holy places some miles away. Where he went after that is unknown. Whether he died of exhaustion or reached the mountains remains a mystery. Some said that Singh was murdered and his body thrown into the river. Another account says he was caught up into heaven with the angels. In the early 1940s, Bishop Dry. Augustine Peters, a native missionary of South India, sought out Sundar's brother Rajendra Singh, led him to the Christian faith and baptized him in Punjab. Rajendra referred to many miracles performed by Sundar Singh, and people converted to Christ under his ministry. Sadhu Sundar Singh is treasured by many as a formative figure in the development of the Christian Church in India. Timeline: 1889, born at Rampur, Catania, Ludhiana, Punjab. 1903, conversion. 1904, cast out from home. 1905, baptized in Simla. Begins life as a sadhu. 1907, works in leprosy hospital at Sabathu. 1908, first visit to Tibet. 1909, enters Divinity College, Lahore, to train for the ministry. 1911, hands back his preacher's license, returns to the sadhu's life. 1912, tours through North India and the Buddhist states of the Himalayas. 1918 to 1922, travels worldwide. 1923, turned back from Tibet. 1925 to 1927, quietly spends time writing. 1927, sets out for Tibet but returns due to illness. 1929, final attempt to reach Tibet. 1972, Sadhu Sundar Singh Evangelical Association formed. Works by Sundar Singh. Sundar Singh wrote 8 books between 1922 and 1929. His manuscripts were written in Urdu, and later translated into English and other languages. At the Master's feet, her electronic versions, Google Books and CCEL. With and Without Christ, The Real Life, The Real Pearl, Reality and Religion, Meditations on God, Man and Nature, The Search After Reality, Thoughts on Hinduism, Buddhism, Mohammedanism and Christianity, Meditations on Various Aspects of the Spiritual Life, Visions of the Spiritual World. A number of his works were compiled and edited by others. The Cross is Heaven, The Life and Writings of Sadhu Sundar Singh, edited by Jayaprasami. A collection of short articles by Sundar Singh. Life in Abundance, edited by F. Thiagaraju. This is a collection of transcripts of his sermons, preached in Switzerland in March 1922, as recorded by Alice Goodwin. The Christian Witness of Sadhu Sundar Singh, a collection of his writings, edited by T. Dayanandan Francis.